All right. Hello and welcome to another episode of I Guess I'll Do It with Pat House. Today, I'm very excited about my guest. It's someone I've been a fan of for a while, and we've crossed paths a couple times in pretty cool ways. Today, I have journalist, newscaster from 6 ABC in Philadelphia, Matt O'Donnell. What's up, man?
Hey, Pat. How you doing? Good to see you.
Likewise, man. It's been a while. I think it was right before COVID we last saw each other.
It was. I did some drumming that night, and you did some comedy.
We absolutely. Yep. The last show we did, we both have a mutual buddy. His name is Tim Williams. His name has come up on this podcast a lot. I got to get him on.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great musician, great entertainer, great guy, too.
Yep. Awesome dude all the way around. But we did a charity event. The Tim Williams Band performed. I did some stand-up, and then you joined in on a couple songs on the drums, right?
I think I played one of my favorite 80s songs, Bryan Adams' Summer of '69.
Got my first real six string. Such a
five and dime.
That is okay. So I am a huge music guy as well. And there are songs I've heard a million times that I never want to hear again. And songs I've heard a million times that I still absolutely love. And I still love Summer of '69.
I think that's an interesting. I never thought of that. I mean, I think Stairway to Heaven would be one of those songs where you just can't listen to anymore because it's been so overplayed. But I'm trying to think, like, When Doves Cry, Prince, how many times have you heard that song? And I can listen to it right now if it's on. I mean, it's sort of like movies where if it's halfway through the movie on whatever cable channel you pull up and you're like, I'm just going to watch it because I love this movie. Teen Wolf would be one of those movies for me.
Oh, yeah. I can watch Beetlejuice or Pee-wee's Big Adventure any day of the week.
That's a winner. Yep. Coming to America.
Tied my shoes once. Miserable experience. I think the songs I never need to hear again, if I were to really just rattle three off, I think Hotel California would be one. I'm going to go with Living on a Prayer and Don't Stop Believing'. And I'm not saying they're bad songs. I just heard them enough to last a lifetime.
I agree with all those, except the Hotel California guitar solo is still pretty rad.
That is
I think I'd throw Freebird in there as your fourth.
I would put that in there as well, though I spent a lot of my teen years playing that guitar solo in the basement. I mean, I spent a lot of time working on that. But, dude, I'm so happy to have you on, man. I have been watching Channel 6 since I was... Before I even, like, my first memories were watching that with my mom and my grandparents.
Awesome.
So I've known you forever. And it's funny. Do you have a lot of people tell you that you're just a part of their everyday life because you're on their TV? So you're in their home.
I do hear that a lot. And it really means a lot to me because Channel 6 is special to me. I grew up watching it as well. And to have people see you and identify with you almost as a friend means that we're doing our job. We're trying to build trust, and we're trying to tell people, listen, we check all this stuff. We put all this stuff together. We're presenting it to you. And at the same time, we're going to have a lot of fun as if, a friend would have with you if you invited them over for lunch or dinner or whatever. Yeah. So it really means a lot for you to say that and anyone else on the street.
No, it's cool. And I mean, I watch you guys every single day of my life in some capacity. And even like I travel a lot for stand-up on the road. I get my 6 ABC notifications on my phone.
Man.
It never
goes
away. It never goes away. So, all right, I'm a comic and I started doing open mics and that led to some hosting gigs and paid stage time and all that kind of stuff. I would love to go back into your pocket to find out where you got where you are today. How did your story start out?
Okay. By the way, your origin story is great. I read it all, and I think it's awesome that you take this bartending thing, and that just like served up millions amounts of material. I'm sure. So
endless amounts. Yeah. And then there's the stuff. There's the stuff I've never even said on stage.
Yes, and observational comedy, right, for me is one of my favorites. So I'm totally into it. But you asked me. So I was a very directionless young man. And I was in high school, and we lived in Virginia for about 3 years, and going to high school and then moving and then starting your sophomore year in a new place is terrifying.
Yeah, that's a horrible age for that.
It is. It's very awkward. Most people have their friend group set already. And so I was kind of lonely, but I had this creative writing teacher. His name is Victor Christen. He's no longer with us. But he was one of those teachers, and I hope everyone has a similar story about a teacher. He saw me. He saw that I loved to write, He thought I had some talent, thankfully, and he worked with me a little bit more. He just like when I would tell him ideas for like little short stories that I would want to write, he had this look in his eye like he was really was interested in me. And so it got me to thinking maybe I can make a career out of this, because maybe directionless Matt can turn into direction Matt. So I'm like, hey, why don't I do newscasting? I love the news. I love current events. I love watching Peter Jennings on ABC World News Tonight, Sam Donaldson, all those old people, David Brinkley.
Voices all their voices are ingrained in here.
Yeah, highly influential for me. And I just went with it. It's with any industry. You have to really work hard, because especially in highly competitive industries like broadcasting and comedy too.
Absolutely.
I totally agree with this. The cream rises to the top, and generally it's about hard work. Talent, yes. Hard work goes longer than anything else. And so that's just what I did. I drove all over the place, banging on doors, begging news directors to see my resume tape. And I always was trying to do something in the field, whether it was working freelance at a newspaper, doing radio, doing internships. I was an intern at Channel 6 way back in the day. Kind of helped me, because when I got back, everyone was still there. It's kind of funny.
That kind of stuff goes a long way. I used to work the box office at Helium when I was in college, and now I headline that comedy club.
Yeah. So you walk in and like, hey, I remember you.
I used to answer the phone calls and be like, oh, this guy's a moron. And then 10 years later, I'm on that stage doing an hour.
Young people really got to listen to that. You
dive in,
do the work.
Dive in and start at the bottom and learn.
Yeah. And so, I mean, the last thing I would say is that I got lucky. I found myself in situations where certain people were looking for certain things. And I think that's fine to admit that I did get lucky. But at the same time, I know you'll agree with this, Pat, you got to be ready for that luck. You got to see it, and you got to be ready to roll with it. And luckily I was. And so here I am, many years later, doing the morning news and still loving it.
That's fantastic. So, all right, you just mentioned short stories briefly. What kind of stuff was directionless Matt writing?
Man, I was so unusual. I would write odd poems with very abstract ideas. And I was, I guess, reading a lot of Stephen King, so I tried myself with horror and some stories that had very strange plot lines.
Well, all that sounds very Stephen King-ish.
Yeah, sure. All I'll say is I'm glad I got into news and not writing stories, because I don't know how long I would have lasted.
Is he your favorite author, or one of them?
I think my favorite author now would be Ernest Hemingway.
Okay.
Because I've reread so many of his books, and he's, I think, a pillar of American novel writing. I think that The Old Man and the Sea is a genius short story. I don't know how many times I've read it. He's the best.
I should go back. I've read a lot of Stephen King, and being honest, I really haven't delved into Hemingway at all.
I would highly suggest it. When I was in college, I really got into Shakespeare, which I never would have thought that would have
That's
happened.
A whole nother level of writing. And
oh, sure. But his stuff is dark and really funny. If you can give it some time, it's good stuff. I still have my textbook from the class I took in college. And luckily, I had a really good teacher who knew how to teach Shakespeare to people who kind of weren't into it. And he was... He was some fellow, I have to say.
So did you go to college for broadcasting?
I went to University of Delaware, and I was an English major with a journalism concentration. Their broadcasting major was more aligned with advertising. Okay. So I did that, and I had a political science minor. I was a Spanish minor for a little while, and I couldn't figure it out. So I went with political science. And I'll tell you, when I was in political science classes, that was back when if you were into that, you were considered a geek. Nowadays, people can't get enough of it, which really, I still don't understand that.
So
I would never have guessed that.
So you're a blue hen then, right? That's Delaware, right?
I am, yes.
I went to Temple. I'm an owl, and I
Yep.
took a couple like journalism and writing classes, and I loved it, and I really loved it. But for some reason, I was a PR major, public relations. I have no idea why. I think because it was easy. But I started doing stand up, and that took over my life. But the journalism classes were my absolute favorite in college. But I just never sailed with it.
I think that everyone should learn how to write because it comes up so often in so many ways, and to be able to communicate with people, especially nowadays when we're having a lot of trouble finding our similarities, and instead of finding ways to argue with each other, that it's just really good to communicate in any industry you have or just in your personal life.
I also think people need to learn how to write so they can use punctuation.
No. Don't get me started. I have so many pet peeves.
Me too. And like, I'm not saying I'm Mr. Perfect, but like, I'm a bit of a grammar Nazi, if I can use the term. And misspellings, I see them on menus at restaurants and bars. I see them on billboards. Like, lack of comma usage, like, actually makes my arm hair stand up.
Sure. I see it in places, like you mentioned menus, places that spell checking is built into anything you have now.
Yes,
There's
even
no
your
excuse.
phone.
Yes, and the thing that really gets me is the easiest one. It's the its, whether it's ITS or it's IT apostrophe S.
It is. It's possession.
And I feel like everyone always picks the opposite one.
Is there any word you can't spell, or a word that you have to stop and think? Because
probably Michelangelo.
Oh, well, I've never had to write that out in my life.
Let me think. It's weird how sometimes when you write as much as I do, and I do every morning, sometimes you'll see a word and all of a sudden it doesn't look like it's right anymore. This happened to me, for instance, the word apple. I'm like, are there really 2 P's in there? And that's like 3 consonants in a row. That doesn't look right. And so I'd look it up and be like, yeah, that's how you spell it. So I totally
understand that. And for all the years I've spent working in the service industry, whenever I write the word restaurant out, I have to think AU or UA, and I have to stop. And that has been that way my whole life, just with that word. And I worked in the industry.
That is a tough one. Also, any word that's a foreign word that's been indoctrinated into our language, like
doesn't count.
Potatoes au gratin. I can't spell that right now. No way.
I'm baffled by journalism, and it's such a cool way because obviously you study and you train, but you work the news. Something happened an hour ago and you're reporting live. Do you get is there a thrill you get from that? Like for me, when like a joke hits, okay, that worked out. If something happens and you have to bring it to the people right away, is there like an energy rush in there? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. There is a definite adrenaline rush when there's a breaking story. There's also, in many cases, a sense of dread.
Yeah. I was going to get there a little bit, but yeah.
I mean, the slow rolling breaking news story of the pandemic is one that we've never experienced before. And Jim Gardner was asked recently. He just retired, but we're still inspired by him. But he was asked, "How do you cover a story like that?" And he said, "We just cover it like anything else. It's a breaking story. We got to get the information. We got to check it. We got to figure out where it's going. Sometimes we're going to get bad information and we have to correct that. But we just have to treat it like anything else. And when you do that, I think that you generally get things right."
When was your first newscast? Like solo? Were you terrified?
So the first time on the air?
Yeah, live.
Live. It was in Binghamton, New York. That's where I started. And going live meant literally running a cord from the station to wherever you were.
Mm-hmm.
So you just keep running it. And I was standing there with these 2 Broome County legislators, and they just had a hearing about a budget, and they were both staying on either side. I just didn't know what to do. It was awful. I'm glad they didn't have YouTube back then, because it would be so painful for me to watch.
Oh, I totally get that. I still have DVDs and even some VHS of my early days in stand-up. And I didn't know what I was doing. I had 5 minutes of jokes. Maybe 90 seconds of it was halfway decent. But when I watch back now, man, I cringe beyond belief.
Sure. It's the 20,000 hours.
Yeah.
You got to keep doing it. Comedy, you can't do your routine in your house by yourself, you need feedback. And so
No,
you do it over and over again.
That's totally true, because I will practice new material in my hotel room, but that doesn't mean anything, because when I hit the stage, it can come out totally different.
Yeah.
There's people chatting. This table's drunk. I had to stop for a second. There was a weird pause, you know?
Yes. You know what? I wonder how it would be if we had like a gong show situation in our studio during the newscast, and to have people react in real time. You know, it would really mess us up. I don't know how you do it when, especially, I know you like to go after hecklers, you got to be ready with something.
It's better rolling in the moment. Like, you know, you can stockpile all these things in your back pocket for a heckler situation, but what if the heckler says something outlandish or just like drops their drink? You know what I mean? Like, so it's better to deal with something like that in the moment, as opposed to like, oh, I'm going to say this next time. Rarely does that ever work out well.
The thing I love when comedians turn it upside down. That's the best. Right back at them.
So all right, let's carry this. So as a comic, a bad day for me would be a drunk crowd, a crowd that's not listening, or even a crowd that's dumb. I'm not going to lie. They're out there. I won't name cities, but they are out there.
Yep.
So I don't know how to say what's a bad day in television, like, but like, what's a rough news day for you? That makes sense?
Yeah, I'll go with it. I would say holidays.
Yeah.
News never takes a holiday.
Yeah.
And they generally feel the same because of the same parades or fireworks or this or that. And they can, like, whenever I do a story, whether it's a fire or a child overcoming, cancer or anything, I try to tell it in an individual way so that it's interesting and it's about that moment, instead of using a template to try to just write it out as if I've written it over and over and over again. You know what I mean? I feel like, and stories are always all about people. I think the people in the stories deserve to be treated as an individual moment.
Yeah, with respect and telling their story, and
to just push myself in a creative way to tell it in a way that respects that individuality of the situation. We're getting pretty deep on this thing now.
Well, I'm covering all. I'm used to talking to comics, but I love talking to people in the arts and creative areas in general. So it's switching up my questions and my direction here.
I mean, when you tell a good story, you know it.
Absolutely,
you get that feeling. And
you
get your own reaction, but also you get feedback from your viewers too.
Yeah, and also sometimes you just know it inside. You're like, I nailed that. That was perfect.
Yeah. Sort of like the debate team in Old School. That was perfect. we concede.
So you're also a drummer and a golfer.
Yes.
That is awesome.
Not necessarily in that order.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe.
I love the videos of you drumming on Instagram because I love your studio.
Yes. I got that idea from a restaurant in Wayne, Delaware County called Autograph.
Oh, yeah. I've been there.
They have a bar and they have all these records. And I unfortunately sold my record collection when I had no money in Syracuse when I was a TV up there. But my my mother-in-law had a big record collection, Beatles and Queen and just all sorts of great Rolling Stones, and gave them to us. And I'm like, let's use this as artwork. And so it's very inspiring when you're in there to look around and see, like, and I have like new albums. Like I have Master of Puppets sitting up there.
I saw that. I was going to mention albums I saw on your wall. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. But also the Mamas and the Papas are up there too. So Rick Springfield. It's really cool. I love it. I love albums because that was when, like, my daughter, she's in college now, but when we got all these albums, I got a record player. I'm like, I want you to hear the Beatles. And we played Sgt. Pepper. And I'm like, look at this. Like, we would open up the credits and we'd read the lyrics with the song and we'd look at the pictures, and she thought it was really cool. And I felt like I brought her back to our time in, like, whether the 70s, 80s or 90s, when it was just really exciting to have the art too.
Yes. It's so important. I still have like all my CD. I mean, I have a lot of vinyl as well. My dad gave me his collection. I have a ton of vinyl, but I have all the CDs from when I grew up, and I spent all my teens reading the liner notes and reading the lyrics, and it's so important.
Yeah,
So
I just love that period of time because I feel like there was so much put into an album, and they would only be released like once every couple of years because of that. And
I know, and it's funny when you look at certain bands like the Beatles hammered out so much stuff just in 7 years in the 60s, 8 years. And even Queen went on a run where they had an album come out every year. And then things started to like slow down a little bit. The vinyl on your walls, is the record still in there, or are those out?
Yep,
Oh, they
they're
are
all in there.
Oh, very cool. So who are your favorite bands?
So I would say Elvis. I would say Tool. I would say Celtic Frost. That's getting a little too extreme for some people, I think. And the first cassette I ever bought, that was it wasn't an album. I bought a cassette. It was the first cassette I ever bought was Asia's self-titled cassette. It was a band that had members of Yes, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and I think King Crimson.
King Crimson, yeah.
And they had Heat of the Moment was their lead single. And then one of my favorite songs of all time, and this is a song I can listen to over and over again, is Only Time Will Tell. So I'll throw Asia in there too.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty eclectic group. I mean, going from Elvis to Tool was...
Yeah, people think I'm just a metalhead, but, I'm not just an extreme drummer. I have other tastes. I love Neil Young. I love Billy Joel. I love one of the concerts I saw when I was in high school was Edie Brickell and the Young Bohemians.
Oh, wow. I haven't heard that name in a long time.
She was a very eclectic folk style singer, and I loved it. The Sundays, going way back.
I'm loving this list. Yeah. How often do you get the chance to drum?
So I gave up the time that I spent practicing drumming to spend more time golfing. So not much, but I feel like we only have so much time on our hands.
Yes, and it's impossible to balance everything out.
The amount of athletic golf I have left in me is shorter than the amount of time that I can play the drums. I feel like I can play the drums longer in life. So I still have it there, and I still pick it up every now and then, but I couldn't play right now. I don't have chops right now because I need to do it over and over. Like, for instance, my favorite song to drum is Everlong by Foo Fighters. I think someone played it that night that you and I did that benefit.
They did.
And it is an exercise. There we go.
There we go. That is a Foo Fighters tattoo that has been there for a long, long time.
Respect. So for me to perform that song, I have to play it about 1 million times over the course of 2 weeks.
I saw on your Instagram that you will rehearse a song 50 to 60 times, and that's totally true. That is totally true.
I know it doesn't exist, but I need muscle memory. Otherwise, I just can't do it.
Muscle memory is such a real thing, though, because like after COVID, I didn't do stand-up for 6 months, and my first couple sets back were rough. But then once I had 4 or 5 sets, muscle memory kicked in. It's like, oh, yeah, that's how I said that. I forgot I had that line there.
Sure. So, there are definitely things where you need reps, like riding a bike. You tend to not forget how to do that. You can probably drive after a layoff of a month, but comedy, drumming, anchoring the news. I kind of need to get back into the groove after being on vacation for a week.
Yeah. Oh, I totally get that. If I even take a week off from shows, you feel a little out of it. Then one time, bam, you're back in. Do you have one favorite drummer?
Man,
can you pinpoint? And I know it's such a hard question.
I have 6, but I'll narrow it down. It's Stuart Copeland.
Oh,
he took an African. He spent time in the Middle East somewhere. I can't remember exactly where, and he learned the African style of drumming, one of the African styles, and he loves to put the beat on the 3. People, 1, 2, 3, 4. You listen to the Police songs, the beat or the hit is always on the 3, and it gives their music. Some people think it's just reggae music. and in a punk style, but it's intricate, and he does things that are so subtle, but are so important to the song. Like Every Breath You Take, you think it's no, he's doing things in there that's mind blowing. It's so minimalist, but at the same time so complicated.
That's exactly what it is. Minimalist and complicated. There's a clip. I can go down the rabbit hole watching Stuart Copeland clips, and I have many, many times. There's a clip of him explaining spirits in the material world, and I'm like, it's insane.
I can't figure out the beginning of that song.
I don't think he can either. He talks about that
time, and I can't pick up the beat until they actually get into the chorus.
It's absolutely nuts. I would put him in my top 3 drummers of all time.
Okay, who would yours be? Like number 1?
Roger Taylor.
Okay,
Queen.
Yeah, because he's got the added component of being able to sing too.
And but yeah, oh yeah, I wasn't even thinking singing, but yeah, he totally does. And he actually has a couple decent Queen songs. The Queen songs that Freddie didn't sing are like, pushed under the rug. You know what I mean? But I mean, I would put Roger Taylor as number 1, Stewart in the top 3. But I mean, it's so hard to narrow it down. I mean, I just showed you my Foo Fighters tattoo, but there's Taylor Hawkins. I mean, Chad Smith. Yep, Chad Smith. I mean,
Chad Smith's great. He transformed the Chili Peppers into what they are.
Oh man!
Without him, they I don't know if they would last as long as they did.
Also, rest in peace, Neil from Rush. Obviously,
sure. I was a big fan of Rush when I was in high school. I went through phases. It was like Van Halen, then it was Metallica, then it was Rush, and then it was Mariah Carey. All I Want for Christmas.
Dude, you can't not toe tap to that. I mean, you could be Kerry King from Slayer. Probably is like, yeah, I like this song. You in every holiday season.
Absolutely, yeah. So you go through phases. Right now, what kind of phase am I in? I don't even know. I don't know. Maybe I have been reading and listening to a lot of Police stuff, so maybe I'm in my Police phase.
Nice. I mean, the Police are a band that's always there. Like I delve in and out, but the Police and the Clash and a bunch of other bands from that era and that genre are always like in the arsenal as go-tos. Always.
Yes, absolutely.
This morning driving around.
Put them in. Always put them in. Hall & Oates, go-to.
Oh, absolutely.
Philadelphia. So.
Yep. And you mentioned Billy Joel earlier. Liberty DeVito.
Low Cut Connie.
Yeah.
Favorite local band right now.
Yep. And they're always being talked about on Precedent Steve.
Yes. They're good stuff, man.
So let's talk golf now. I had a weird
Give me 1 second because I want to close out my mail and have that stop. Okay.
That was me. That was
my
mail.
It was me. Yeah. My email is up and now it's not.
Okay, mine was as well. Okay, so all right, I'm going to tell you a very quick story. This was so weird to me. I golfed 9 holes this morning, and it was my first. I usually golf solo, and I get paired up with somebody. But today I got paired up with a stranger and had to share a cart. That was a first. Not a fan of that. Not a fan of taking a ride with a complete rando.
Did you talk to him?
We did, and we both are from Delco and know some of the same people. Okay. So after the 4th hole, it got normal. But the first couple holes, I was like, I'll walk. This is weird. Yeah,
I've always said that you will learn the most about someone if you golf with them or if you ride a ski lift with them, because you're forced to talk to them. But in your observational comedy, maybe you've already hit on this. So why does that not apply to being in an elevator with someone? All you're trying to do when you're in the elevator with a stranger is you're like, please, just let this thing get to my floor. So get out of here.
Yes.
I don't want to make eye contact. Nothing. It's weird how we have different
social
doing this.
parameters.
Social mores.
Have you been golfing your whole life?
I started when I was about 10, but I didn't really take it seriously until after my children got old enough that I didn't need to be around constantly. They had more dependence. So I would say I've been really working on my game pretty hard over the last 6 or 7 years.
Wow, that's awesome. So one of those people, I started at 25 and then I just messed around for 10 or 12 years. So now at 38, I'm taking it seriously, but I have over a decade of like reinforced bad habits.
Sure.
So I'm trying to correct it and start over. And man, is it frustrating and inconsistent.
Golf is definitely, everything about it is the opposite. You name anything, it's the opposite of every other sport. And practice, you can have bad practice. You can just ingrain something that you shouldn't be doing, and your brain just remembers it, and you do it unconsciously, and it becomes an absolute horror show on the golf course.
Yeah, it's a game of opposites. You go out in a good mood, you go home angry.
Sure. The lowest score wins. You hit it right, it goes left. You hit it left, it goes right. You hit it down, it goes up. You hit it up, it goes down. What else? It's a sport where you can do it while drinking.
Yeah, that's
someone
also
said, if you can do it while you're drunk, it's not a sport. But I think golf is an exception.
that is totally an exception. I mean, look at John Daly alone.
Sure. Yes.
What do you normally shoot?
I'm consistently in the 70s.
Oh man. All right, podcast over.
I know. It's a lot of work. And you know what? When I was hacking it all over the place, I looked at people who were better than me. And for one thing, I was afraid to be around them, and I didn't want them to see what I was doing. And what I learned over time is they don't care what you're doing. As long as you play quickly, they'll play with anyone. And the other thing is, it does take a long time. Golf is a really complicated sport, and even great athletes find trouble with it. But it's such an addiction because when you find it, it's so good.
Dude, it is so good. And that you mentioned the word addiction perfectly because it's so true. I mean, you can have 5 triple bogeys in a row and then par hole, and you're like, I'm back.
Yes. And maybe the par was a dirty par where you hit it all over the place, but you made a big putt. Like, jam. Yes.
I was horrible off the tee on the first 3 holes today, but my secondary shots got me right back in on all 3 holes. Yeah. And man, it is a roller coaster of emotions on every single shot.
Yeah. Like I would suggest anyone who wants to get better is you need to see a teacher. I know it's expensive. That's a one thing that's knock on it. It's so expensive, and that limits the amount of people that can play it. I do a lot of stuff with the First Tee because they work to try and get youth in Philadelphia into the game. I think that's great for them because I want them to share the love that I do. But having someone watching what you're doing is so much different than you doing it and then thinking, all right, what did I do right or wrong? You need someone else. You need an observer.
Yeah,
to figure it out for you.
I made the mistake, and it's not a mistake. I was trying to learn, but filming myself taking my swing, and I don't know what the hell my body is doing. It's like not even a way a human being, a body of an adult moves.
Yeah, it's weird how it's a game of opposites. You probably thought you were doing the exact, totally different thing that you were doing. So
I don't even know the way. Like everything about the video was horrific. I mean, you probably wrote a poem about it. It was so.
I probably did.
It's
sort of like listening to your voice on an audio recording for the first time. You're like, that's not me. That doesn't sound like me.
At what part of your career did you get used to seeing yourself on camera? Because it's so weird. I mean, you're used to it now. I'm used to it now. But you just mentioned a great point. The first couple times you watch or hear yourself, it is rough to watch. Just because you're like, my body does that. My face looks like that. I really sound that way.
When I was when I was on the street in Philadelphia early on, I used to do this with my fingers while I was holding the microphone. It would just this nervous twitch. My thumbs would go around each other over and over and over again, and I would watch my story and I'd be like, "What am I doing there? Why is that happening? What's causing my body to do this?" But I think the comfort level, I could get nervous tomorrow, and it would only be because I'm not prepared. And I think that my preparation level holds that off. I think at any time, someone who really cares deeply about what they do can get really nervous. And I try to remember that's good. That means you care.
Absolutely.
But what holds the house of cards up before it falls is that preparation level and being able to automatically, have this or that information coming out and riding that. It really helps. So, I get nervous all the time. It just never goes away.
No,
but it's because I care.
Absolutely. I feel the same way about my own show. So how do you prepare? If you're on the news at 4:30 a.m. and you're reporting on stories that are developing overnight, how do you prepare to go on air that early with news that's still breaking? Or
so I try to absorb news constantly, and it's fun for me because I enjoy reading and learning about stuff. when I get in the morning, I go through the entire rundown, and I always change things. I have a certain style of active voice and making very simple sentences. And I always call it driving forward rather than taking abrupt turns and then going backwards, which are putting commas in and putting the sentence backwards and all this other stuff. I try to make things as simple as possible for the viewer, but as descriptive as possible. So I will go through every single story before I read it on the air. And I will also try to have this subconscious sense of my news radar, where if something doesn't seem right, I'm like, I better go check that. That doesn't seem right. So I try to make sure things are correct, objective, all that stuff. So it's just going deep into the rundown and trying to get the flow of the news, because we're telling a story with a number of stories throughout the newscast.
Yeah.
We're telling the story of what this day or this past week has been like. And so it's really just knowing it before I deliver it on the air.
What's been the weirdest thing that ever happened to you on television? Just a bizarre off the wall moment. Maybe something got thrown your way, or you made a blunder somewhere and things went off the rails for a second, whether it was serious or something funny.
There was a night in Philadelphia, I can't remember which neighborhood, someone set off a C4 or something right during my live shot when I was talking, and it really scared me.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And this was live?
It was live, and I turned, there was a flash, and I turned around and I finished my live shot, and then we wrapped it up.
Yeah, some days, you got to think in the moment. It's like same thing as being heckled live, which is kind of rare, but I mean, stuff happens when it's a live show or live on television. Some things you got to jump in and out of the moment very quickly.
I remember going up to New York City when JFK Jr. died in the plane crash.
Plane crash, yeah.
And we were in his neighborhood, Tribeca, I think it was, and I got my first real big experience with the Howard Stern hecklers. And they were brutal. They look and they know which microphone flags are from which markets. And then, and luckily this is before you could just look up what the reporters' names are, because they could have done that too. But then they'd attack you and they get you. And also at Giant Stadium at Eagles games, the New York fans, they knew which stations were from Philadelphia, and they would go after us too, which is kind of fun because you're already in enemy territory.
Yeah, I was going to say, is this playful or is this malicious?
Playful. There were very rare times that anyone has been truly nasty to me.
Yeah, same thing. Same thing in my world.
People are nasty all the time on social media, but that's just its thing.
That's a whole different thing in itself. And Ricky Gervais had the best line. He's like, Twitter's not a real place. I don't care what you say. It's not a real place.
It's not. It's, as a colleague of mine, John Rollins, described it, it's like trying to communicate with bumper stickers on cars.
That is a phenomenal analogy.
Yeah, it really is.
That really is. What were the Stern fans saying at you? Was this pre-Baba Booey?
Yeah, okay. It was a lot of Baba Booey, maybe some Fafa Flooey, maybe some Fafa Flunky. It was.
I will admit, man, when you hear a Baba Booey out in the wild, it makes me laugh every time.
It's so good.
There was just one at the Masters last week. I laughed so hard when I saw that, because you don't hear it that often. At least I don't. So when I do, it's special.
It's way better than mashed potatoes.
So you have interviewed presidents. You've interviewed Obama and Donald Trump.
Yes.
And now you're talking to a comic from Delco. What has been the best?
I'll tell you, Pat, that the best interview is always the first Eagles fan who comes out of the link after a win.
That is a great answer. They're probably drunk 9 times out of 10.
Oh, there always are.
I mean,
but they always have. Philly fans are creative in how they do everything. It's what I love about the city. But I think the point I would like to make is that the stories that I remember and the stories that I cherish are ones with regular people. Mm-hmm. And I love when I travel around the region. I don't do general reporting anymore, but I used to do it every day. And I feel like I have a story in every single town around here, and I'll go through, and I hadn't been through whatever town in a while, and I'll be like, I remember doing that story. Sorry about that. I remember doing that story with such and such, and it happened here or there. And a lot of times people will message me and remind me of, hey, like 15 years ago, you talked to my mom about this or that. That's really cool to me.
That is really cool. And the fact that you've got to interview 2 sitting presidents is really cool too. So how does that go down within the inner workings of the company? Do they approach you? Do you ask for it? Do you and Alicia Vittorelli go into the octagon? Like who gets the
it's funny. Sometimes I call our studio the octagon. That's awesome. So just to qualify, I interviewed candidate Obama before he was elected and candidate Trump before he was elected. And I interviewed Biden when he was a senator while I was in Delaware. So I interviewed them before they became famous, maybe. But it's whoever's available, whoever can get there, whoever can get it done, they're going.
I've always wondered that, like, who gets to interview the president, who gets to go to the Olympics, who gets to go to the Super Bowl besides the sportcaster,
Sure. It's also, I don't do a lot of traveling because the morning show is such a monster in terms of the time and the logistics and everything. I'm waking up at 2:20 in the morning. And so to turn something and then have to still do the morning, it really is a complicated situation.
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely off peak hours.
Sure.
Preston and Steve are very, very good to me, and I've been on their radio show many times. Oh, great guys. Steve was one of my first guests because he was a stand-up forever.
He is the quickest guy.
He is so quick. And also,
the stuff he comes up with.
That's it. It's so quick and so random and always so funny.
His timing is impeccable.
Yeah, they're great guys. So I don't know how you early people do it because I'm a comic. I'm out late, but every time I do morning radio, you want to do radio and sell tickets, you got to be on. And here I am in the studio trying to be funny. I'm like, it's 7:20, and I'm like doing my bits. I'm like, this is not normal.
Sure, I was never a morning person until I became the morning anchor, and really, it's just about discipline and making sure you get 8 hours of sleep. There's no other secret formula.
So do you go to bed at 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Wow. That's got to be hard this time of year.
Yes, because the sun's still up. And
absolutely. For hours. Hours after 6.
And during this time of year, a couple times a week, I wake up at 9:00 p.m. thinking I have missed the entire show. And a colleague of mine told me to switch my iPhone, which I use as an alarm, into military time to try and trigger, hey, it says 9:00. That's not 9:00 a.m. It would be, I'm getting this wrong. So
21.
21. Yeah. So 21. Mm-hmm. But you're so confused when you wake up at that hour that it still doesn't work.
Does that help?
I have no solution for these.
So that did not work for you.
No, but I still have it that way because I think it's cool to know military time.
Yeah, but then I find myself doing more math. I'm like 20 o'clock. What the hell?
Yeah, but then I end up staying up too late in the moment. Like I'll have the shower running, I'll start brushing my teeth, and I'll be looking at my phone like, why does it say 22? What time is that? And then I'm counting back from 12 and from 24. And
you're subtracting 3 from 24. Yeah.
It's hard to do math when you're half awake.
Yeah. It's hard to do it. Well, I'm not a math guy. What has been the most meaningful story you've ever covered?
That's a good one, Pat.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really thought that would be something you could ask 10 times a day.
Yeah, it's a stumper.
Oh, I'll take it. I really thought that was going to...
Well, I was thinking earlier in the week, the Biden administration had officially ended the COVID alert.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought to myself, and by the way, this was a story that was really deep into the newscast. It wasn't the lead at all. And I brought myself back to the time in 2020 in March, April, when we thought it would be a week, and then we're like, maybe it's 6, maybe it's a year, maybe
2 weeks. 2 weeks to flatten the curve.
Yeah, maybe it's 4 years because that's how long the last time we developed a vaccine took. And so I brought myself back into that time thinking, wow, what if someone from the future went back there and said, this is the day that the pandemic will officially end? I don't think we would be able to handle it. And so I hope that during those really tough times during the pandemic, when there was so much uncertainty and fear and just like this fear and loathing thing, it's really hard to describe how dark I felt a lot of times. And I wasn't, one of these people that was laid off and lost family members and all the horrible things that happened during that. I hope that we were able to provide comfort in doing what we did all that time.
Oh my God, 100%. And that's something, I don't know if you get lost in this as well. I've said this on the podcast before in various aspects, but like what you do is important. And as a comic, I get lost in the work. I drive long car rides. I fly. I'm in Ubers. I'm in hotels. I go to the show. It's work. It's work. It's work. And then at the show, people are like, oh my God, I needed that. And I'm like, oh yeah, people come out here to enjoy this, but I'm at work. Mm-hmm. Like you forget that people need it and respect it and that, people seek it out, whether it's comedy or news. You're part of their lives and you provide something that people need. And I forget that as a comic.
You really do. You there are times when we need to laugh. And to have comedians is just a treasure. It really is. And your by the way, your comedy is, I really enjoy it. I was showing my co-anchor this morning. I'm like, hey, I'm going to be on this guy's podcast. Watch it. And so I showed her some of your stuff on Instagram videos. There are 3 or 4 of them, and she's like, yeah. And I'm like, yeah, this is like a Seinfeld style comedy where it's observational, but he also inserts like the local stuff, like the Wawa holding the doors thing, which I really appreciated.
Thank you.
Which I'll add. So I didn't listen to the rest of the bit. I don't know what you said, but the weird thing about the holding the doors thing at Wawa is these same people will try to run you over in the parking lot when you're trying to leave.
That is 100% true. That's one of the bits that first got me on Preston and Steve. Oh, yeah. I did a benefit at the Punchline with Jim Brewer, and it was a Preston and Steve sponsored event. And I did that bit, and they were all at the show, and they were like, "Oh my God, that's so great!" Then they had me in like 2 weeks later, and they still bring that bit up from time to time if they get on like a Wawa kick.
Sure.
And one time, Preston tried to do my bit and just butchered it. I was like, "Bring me in, and I'll walk you through it instead of you massacring my material."
Professionals.
All right, man, dude. Thank you so much for being here. I had a blast. I mean, just talking shop, talking music, talking golf. I could do this all day, every day.
Yeah, I appreciate the questions, appreciate the time, and
I appreciate
comedy,
you.
So I'll continue to follow your stuff. Best of luck in your travels, not only around here but across the country.
Oh, thanks, man. You know what? We got to hop on a Tim Williams gig soon. We got to make that happen again.
Okay, you can do the opening comedy act like last time.
I'll text them right now.
We can open for you this time.
All right. I mean, how about you guys do an hour? I'll do like 10 minutes. You guys do another hour.
Yeah, just sort of like a break, right? Yeah. Well, let's get into Tim Williams' ear and get this happening, man.
We can make that happen. But you know what? I'm going to jam with you guys next time because you on drums, Tim singing, I'll do guitar. We'll do Everlong.
I'm in. I just need 1 million reps in advance.
Not a problem. Actually, I did Everlong. I did stand up at Preston Elliott's 50th birthday party, and we played Everlong. He was on the drums. 5-time famous were the band, and I jumped in with them to close the night out. It was a lot of fun.
He is light years ahead of me when it comes to drumming. So
we all got to get together and jam. That's going to be our goal for at some point in 23.
Sounds good. Best of luck,
Matt O'Donnell. Thanks, man. Thank you.